Hello, fellow audio nerds. I'm Steph, and this is Major Hi-Fi. So last summer, I got a chance to take a listen to the Mackie MP-240, and that IEM, which was really great and an awesome bang for your buck, was just one in a series of three. Well, this week I have with me the MP-240, and this one is supposed to be the best sounding one out of those three. In fact, my colleague, and we listen to a lot of IEMs and a lot of earphones, just a lot of audiophile stuff in general, ended up buying one of these and said that it was one of the best, the best kind of budget audiophile earphones that he had heard. So, how do they sound? Let's go back in time. I'll share with you my first impressions, and then I'll meet you right back here for my overall thoughts. All right, here we go. Hey everybody, welcome to my place. So today I've got with me the Mackie MP-240. So let's see what's inside the box here. Alright, so as you'll see here, pretty simple package, but really has a lot of nice accessories. So first things first, you've got this nice hard shell carrying case made of plastic, but clasps shut here. It's got a little carabiner so you can like attach it to a bag or a gig bag or something. Next, you've got a few different types of ear tips. There's just the regular silicone ones here. Then you've got some foam tips, and then you've got another set of silicone tips that are 2 flange. Next, you've got this adapter, 3.5 millimeter to 6.35 millimeter, some documentation, and of course the earphones themselves. Now, I should mention that this cable is detachable, so it comes with a nice cable as well. So as you'll see with the Mackie MP-240, the driver housings kind of have like a medium to large size to them. They're made of plastic, and yeah, they're sort of like this simple look. It's kind of this black glossy plastic with just the Mackie symbol logo right there. And they're super lightweight. It feels like just holding them in the hand, it kind of feels like these are going to be really simple to kind of like put into the ears. But that said, you'll also notice that the shape of these is kind of interesting. It sort of follows the shape of the ear. So I am kind of curious to see how they do feel when I finally put them on here. Now this, just from experience, these driver housings, these earpieces look pretty much, exactly identical to the others in the lineup. The biggest difference between, for example, the 240 and the 220 are just like the drivers and what's inside of them. But let's see how they fit here. Yeah, fits really easily, comfortably, very sound isolating actually, and right now I just have the silicone tips on, so I'm sure it'll be even more isolating with the foam tips. But yeah, they seem to fit really well. I like the way that the ear hooks on the cable sort of like keep them tight to the ear. The only thing is, I do feel these hitting my ear a little bit, but I'll have to like keep testing them over the course of time to see if it becomes uncomfortable, but I could see it maybe becoming uncomfortable, but it's not so bad right now. I mean, it actually fits really well in the ear. But so as I mentioned, the biggest difference between these and the 220 and the 120 is what's inside. So with this particular, in this particular case with the MP-240, it's a hybrid driver design. So it's got one dynamic driver for the lows, and one balanced armature for the mids and for the highs. And lastly, before getting into the sound of the earphones, let's talk about this cable a little bit. So I actually think, it's kind of got this like interesting jacket on it. It's kind of a like plasticky kind of material, and so it makes it have this sense of like stiffness to it. But because of the fact that it's a rounded cable, and because of the thinness of it, it actually is pretty easy to manage in space. It's easy to wrap up. It doesn't really get too tangled. You'll see that it kind of maintains a little bit of curl there, more so than other cables might, so you just gotta like straighten it out a little bit. But yeah, it's a good cable and it feels really durable too. I like that it's got the, you'll see here, the kind of L-shaped connector, and that helps to, you know, can reduce some strain on it. But other than that, you know, the cables, the connectors themselves feel durable. I really do like these ear hooks. They're a little bit stiffer than other ones, and they will bend to whatever shape you kind of put them, whether it be kind of straighter or tighter like this. But they maintain this shape really well, actually, better than other cables that have a similar design. But anywho, I am really excited to actually take a listen, because I wonder how different these sound from the others in that same series, in the MP series. So let's see how they sound. Wow, I'm pretty impressed actually. So I was just listening to the song Desperado by Rihanna, and the bass synth sounded really big. And the thing that was most impressive to me is that it definitely felt emphasized, but I could still hear the kick drum at the same time, which has some kind of overlapping low frequency information, but it didn't feel cloudy. Yeah, it's definitely maintained a nice level of detail and had a really good sense of dimensionality to it. Like, it got pretty deep. Okay, yeah, I was just listening to the song Carolina in My Mind by James Taylor. Now, in this song, it feels like the low mids definitely have like a solid amount of energy, because the bass guitar in that song really felt like it was louder in the mix, took up more space for sure. But as for the mid-range, it seemed to have a sense of spaciousness to it, which was kind of interesting, and I'm definitely looking forward to listening more as the week goes on, to sort of wrap my head around what exactly is happening there, because there is like a sense of spaciousness to it. That said, the guitars, the violins, the piano in the song all sounded harmonically complex. I will say that something else that kind of felt a little bit different with these earphones was like the snare hit felt a little bit less snappy than usual. It just sort of sat kind of slightly differently in the mix. And likewise, James Taylor's voice kind of felt more like in the face than usual, the throat in the face, rather than, you know, like the full kind of chest voice as well. So yeah, I'll keep listening for it for sure as the week goes on. Okay, yeah, I was just listening to the song Fever by Ray Charles featuring Natalie Cole. The finger snaps and the long kind of cymbal hits, the sustained cymbals, sounded louder in the mix for sure. And they kind of had this sense of like specificity to them, more so than they usually have. Now, likewise, everything in general kind of had this sense of like air to it, an audible kind of air, and that came through with, you know, of course, like with the cymbals and percussion and everything, but it also really came through with the vocals. Both Ray's and Natalie's voice had this sense of airiness that was emphasized more than usual. Alright, I was just listening to the song I'll Show You by Justin Bieber. And yeah, the soundstage definitely has a sense of contrast across all three dimensions. For example, the sub kick energy really contrasts in height very well with the bright mixed vocals and the brighter kind of synths sounds. Likewise, when sort of like wider synths come in the chorus, you really kind of like feel that in the width. And then lastly, there's really good contrast between Justin's voice and the kind of melodic, further off synth that's going on during the verses. So it's definitely good contrast there. It doesn't feel totally accurate, I think probably because of the shape of that mid-range that's going on. But I will go into further detail as I listen more. So yeah, I'll see you back at the Major Hi-Fi office. Here we go. Overall, the low frequencies of the Mackie MP-240 definitely have a sense of emphasis and energy to them in a really kind of like fun way. As for the sort of shape of them, you will hear a nice sense of extension, a sense of subbiness from kick drums and anything else that's sitting down there. Also, I kind of heard a boost right around 60 hertz, and that kind of gave kick drums and bass synths and, you know, whatever else is really rocking down there a little bit more level in the mix as well. But the thing that I thought was really well done about it is that it doesn't really cloud up the low mids at all. This low frequency stuff really maintains a sense of separation there. And so it does a good job of sort of maintaining grooviness, especially when there's a groove being built between a kick drum and a bass guitar. That said, it's not a super realistic low end, so it's not going to be great for genres that need that kind of even, super realistic thing. However, it sounded great, I thought, for pop music, hip-hop, rock, indie, anything that sort of benefits from that extra bit of like grooviness and a little bit of that extra kind of just low frequency energy in general. The low mids of the MP-240 have a little bit of extra emphasis to them, so basses, synths, anything that's sort of chilling down there, cellos, kind of come through with a little bit of extra energy than they usually do. The middle part of the mid-range feels even, actually, and this sort of lets mid-range rich instruments have a sense of harmonic complexity that I think makes it work for a wider variety of genres. You know, it can work for an acoustic guitar, but it can also work for like a synthy kind of like super synthesized instrument. Now the high mids is where things start to get interesting with these earphones, because the lower region of the high mids feels like it has a bit of a dip, and the high part of the high mids has a little bit of an emphasis, and as a result vocals kind of sound a little bit thinner, but they sort of lean toward, you know, the high mids in general. And this also sort of affects the way the attacks sound, you know, a snare drum attack, you know, sort of like details that would normally sit right in the high mids kind of feel a little bit further away, or at least like they kind of just sit differently. They have a different kind of like tonal balance to them than usual. And this fact makes it so that, yeah, the high mids kind of take it out of that realm of realism a little bit. However, it's still very aesthetically pleasing, so it works really well for genres that don't require that perfect sense of like evenness or neutralness. Again, works really well with pop, works really well with hip-hop, and actually I really enjoyed it for vocal music because there's sort of this clarity and this prettiness to vocals that I think comes through with the mid-range of these IEMs. So if you're into like singer-songwriter or folky music, or indie music that's vocal-centric, I think it works really well for that too. The high frequencies of the Mackie MP-240 are really beautiful sounding. There's a bit of emphasis in both the lower treble and the upper octave, and I really love the emphasis on the upper octave because it works both for feeling a sense of airiness and also hearing a sense of airiness, because those two things can not always coexist together, but it does with these earphones, and it really kind of puts this nice like kind of sprinkle on top of all mixes, really. There is a bit of a dip in the upper treble, and as a result the highs aren't like super accurate or realistic. However, I think this actually works in its favor because it does help vocals and it does help other kind of instruments like trumpets, for example, avoid harshness. As for the soundstage of the MP-240, there's good contrast in each of the three dimensions. The sense of height, you know, there's that sense of subbiness that I've described, as well as that sense of extension in the highs, and that really kind of creates a really good sense of contrast. That said, I think because of the shape of the frequency response, because of the shape of the high mids in particular, it screws the realism of those three dimensions a bit, and this comes across in the sense of height. Things kind of tend to sound a little bit higher than they normally would, and additionally, as for the sense of depth, things that may have, you know, sat further back in space feel a little bit closer to you than normal as well. That contrast is there for, you know, things that are kind of placed brightly in the mix versus things that are kind of further off in space and kind of darker. But as for just like the contrast there, you'll get it, but it's not going to be super realistic. Overall, the Mackie MP-240 is going to be a good option for those of you that are sort of on a budget, but you want to have something that's durable, that sounds good, that you can take with you, that fits in most ears. But it's not going to be for the type of person that's listening to classical music or jazz all the time, because I think the realism just isn't quite there. It works really well for rock music, for indie, for hip-hop, for pop. I think if you like those genres and you kind of want an IEM that can present those in a really aesthetically pleasing way, I think that these are going to be a great option for you. Thank you so much for watching. For another perspective on the MP-240, be sure to check out the description box down below. I'll leave a link to my colleague's review. Additionally, I'll leave a link to a comparison review between these earphones and the Shure SE315. I think it's in the similar price range, so you can kind of check out the differences between this and the Shure. But anyways, if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. And for more videos like this, be sure to subscribe. All right, I will see you next time. Bye.